Throughout middle school and part of high school, I worked at a summer camp during the summer. In the 5 years I worked there was one specific child that stands out in my mind. Alex was a frequent troublemaker in all the years I worked at the camp, and was one that was avoided by all the other counselors. He was a stereotypical troublemaker and the problem behind most of the occurrences that plagued the summer camp. I always thought Alex was just a little spoiled kid that never heard the word no until he came to camp, but I was very wrong. Every day, for 3 straight months, 5 years in a row, his elderly grandmother was the only one allowed to pick him up due to camp child safety rules. The moment I realized Alex acted the way he did, this is what I realized when I realized that Alex acted the way he did. Alex was not a bad kid because he was spoiled. He simply grew up in such a different way that no one else did at the camp. This is a perfect example of the limited perspective of binary thinking that our society lives in. More than ever are we, as a society, dividing ourselves into individual groups and factions with the intent of making ourselves more different. We often view our world in black and white, liberal or conservative, religious or atheist, rather than one with multiple perspectives, such as gray or citizens or humans. Though not every single person lives with a binary mindset, but the amount of one-sided perspectives in our culture today has become overwhelming in nearly all aspects of our culture. We have become a society that prefers to be isolated into one familial group rather than having a welcoming mindset to others who oppose our view. Only by replacing binary thinking with empathy at a young age will society successfully negate dangerous stereotypes. Binary thinking has been and remains an ever-prevalent part of our society. When making a decision, we frequently make our choices based upon as few options as possible. Peter Elbow, an established author and critic from the University of Massachusetts, critiques binary thinking by explaining that through our use of binary thinking, we are using the path of least resistance for human perceiving, thinking, and linguistic structures. The use of binary thinking is continuously passed on throughout society from one generation to the next. Currently, the use of binary thinking is being transferred from the baby boomer generation and Gen X generation to the millennials of today and even those who are younger than them, Gen Z. This is a scene from my everyday life through my family. The dinner table talk that occurs at my house is drastically different than the talk that happens when my family visits my grandparents' house. My house, primarily being filled with millennials or Gen Zs, see today's topics with a contemporary view, while my grandparents, born in the baby boomer generation, hold more traditional views. My grandparents still view mixed marriage as people of 2 different religions marrying one another. A Protestant Christian and a Catholic marriage in their eyes is a mixed marriage, while today mixed marriage is now seen primarily of 2 people marrying each other of different races. Tasia Riley from the University of British Columbia uses our education system as a model and example of stereotypes being passed down in today's society. The same pre-existing stereotypes and stigmas of students are moved from one wave of teachers and administrators to the next in a constant cycle. In the 4 years that I have been in high school, the same stereotypes of students are found to be the same from a practice teacher to one that has been working here in the first year. Even the school I attend currently, there are stereotypes of students for those in their technical areas. There's an auto body or auto diesel, or students predicted not to go to college even though they are capable of achieving academic success. Environmental students are seen as those who put little value on education and are here just for the social atmosphere. And digital publishing students are often categorized as high-strung students who are constantly stressed and pressured with multiple responsibilities and projects for their tech area. All these stereotypes may prove to be true for a very small minority of students, but ultimately hold little truth. The one true way for us today, as people, as a society, and as humans, to stop the negative and harmful stereotypes that inflict devastating wounds to our culture is to make it blue. We need to change the way we see. Make it blue is a motto I developed for my time as a digital publishing student in my high school. It started as a way for me to annoy my classmates when offering advice. They would come to me to get my opinion on their work, and in response I would say, make it blue. Rather than giving them specific advice that they were looking for, I gave them a response that they hated to hear. Through Make It Blue started out as a way for me to annoy my classmates and my friends. It did eventually become a way of thinking for me to change the way I see things. To view things in a different manner, I needed to change the color I saw the world and others in. I needed to no longer have my lens in black and white, but change them to color. And that is exactly what we need to do today. We need to change the color we have in our lenses. The world is designed to be seen for its beauty and bursting array of colors, but we instead have decided to take the path of least resistance and rather see in black and white. Seeing with only two colors is wasting the gift that we have been given to us as humans. We need to make the world blue, red, yellow, green, any color that isn't simply black or white. We need to change the way that we view others. Just looking at a person that you may have previously stereotyped and made assumptions about before in a different and more open-minded manner will bring a flourishing of change in the way one looks at the world. And yeah, an example of this can be found when I changed the way I viewed one of my atheist classmates. As a Christian and United Methodist myself, I viewed my classmate in a not-so-Christian-like way, and in a way and not a way of open-mindedness. During science class where we were discussing evolution theory and creation theory, tensions arose between us about both of our beliefs, but through in-class discussion and academic discourse, I was able to relate and understand my classmate's position better so that I didn't combat him with a negative mindset whenever I or my beliefs were challenged. And once I stopped viewing Alex as a spoiled little kid, but rather as a child with a completely different childhood that I cannot make assumptions about, I reshaped the way I saw others and was able to learn empathy. This type of movement has always started in our nation through the work of the millennial and younger generations. The 2017 Millennial Impact Report identifies millennials as people who no longer define themselves in the transactional role they play in an organization, such as a donor, activist, or volunteer, and now view themselves as those certain to change themselves and society. Millennials and members of the younger generations are becoming inspired to create change as they move away from the majority of the past generations' limiting view. No longer are we, millennials and Gen Zs, limited by the status quo and how society tells us to behave, as we are now the largest generation in our country, with our preferences bound to soon become the social norm. The most important way for us to fight and combat binary thinking is to invest in future generations. We need to teach empathy to children at a young age so that they will live impacting lives that will discontinue the cycle of binary thinking. Stereotypes of all manners are a result of binary thinking in a society. The solution to end these stereotypes is to teach empathy and to broaden one's perspective. I was able to learn empathy at a young age through my experience with a wide range of children who all grew up differently, and which in turn led me to be able to broaden my perspective. However, the vast majority of young people will not have my same experiences. To accomplish this, more change needs to erupt from a society to inspire others to seek out a new perspective and teach those younger than themselves. Rather than teaching either and or, we need to teach thinking as and both. Rather than seeing in black and white, we need to see in blue. We need to see in color. Thank you.